this will be one of our first nights without the Roll20 streaming for a while.
Yeah.
Unless something truly wild happens and we get into massive combat that needs a huge map.
The cats. It'll be the damn cats.
Well, the cats are sneaky. If you manage to pin them down this quick, it'll be pretty crazy. All right. Last time on A Crown of Cold Iron, the party narrowly has escaped the confines of the Raven Palace, an extra-dimensional ruin beneath the tangible Raven Palace, which is a historic site in Queensboro. The party managed to thwart and then maybe somewhat accidentally slaughter a group of human militia members called the Kingsguard. They rescued a woman named Sauna, who is apparently another protege of Mort, also apparently from 1400 years ago. So she might have some interesting stories. So you all and Alex have just narrowly, literally like flung yourselves through the threshold and back out into the mortal world. It was a little unclear if Cyrus was going to make it. In a last-ditch manipulation to try and thwart the Kingsguard, Sauna, let's call it what it is, tricked Cyrus into accepting some powerful magical items that transformed him into a shadowy, massive, monstrous raven. The raven turned the tide of battle, but also chased all of you all out. And it was only through some interpersonal persuasion and some eerie abilities that Cyrus was able to separate himself from the raven. And we're going to pick up right there. So you all are just past the threshold of the ruins of the Raven Palace. You're basically back in the sewers. Sauna and Alex are both still pretty hurt. Cyrus, how is Cyrus doing?
So I'm fully
Unravened.
back, right?
Yes, you are de-ravened. You are actually still wearing the bracers and the cloak, except that you can tell that the magic is suppressed.
So I think Cyrus would turn to Sauna and go, hell of a risk you took.
She turns her head, not speaking common at all.
Oh, right.
He says that was an exceptional risk you took.
I can't remember. I can't remember if we decided if my token, if I don't think that we decided the telepathic message auto translate.
I don't think so. We can double check. So Sauna is still sort of clutching her side, and she dutifully turns to Auric for a translation. Auric hears the ancient common dialect that she's speaking, and repeats it in modern common. That's weird. She sort of pants and clutches her side, which is still bleeding a little bit. She's still covered in all of these burns from your encounter with the possessed host of the Fey Flame Torch. And she kind of grits out through clenched teeth. Something had to be done. They couldn't be allowed to leave with items from the ruin. I would have done it myself, but I didn't. I didn't think I would survive using it again so soon.
Speaking of, I reach into my pack and pull out a healing potion for her and for Alex.
Very kind of you.
They, Alex looks at it and goes, "Hugs?" All right, and just crushes it.
Just crushes it.
Sauna
Don't
definitely
question it.
like looks at it and is. You realize she's never seen plastic before.
Poor child.
Like she taps at it expecting it to be glass, and then it's not. And she is turning it over, and she fully watches Alex for a good 30 seconds after he drinks it. And you can see her evaluating And then finally she you see her normal fingernail suddenly flashes to a little talon, and she just the foil on top and takes a delicate sip, and then sort of grimly finishes the whole thing. She heals pretty substantially.
You just gotta picture her because hugs are really cheap plastic too. So it's not the hard soda bottle plastic that barely moves. We're talking you could practically crush this sucker.
Yeah, she definitely was tapping on it, expecting that tink 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 tink.
Well, and aren't they kind of frosted? They're not really clear glass either.
No, yeah, they're kind of semi-opaque.
Yeah.
So
Have we?
Oh, go ahead.
Did we go all the way? Did we? We went all the way out. We passed the Triskelion door and all that.
Yes, actually,
Okay.
You're about 8 feet, 10 feet past the Triskelion door. It's the one that sort of slammed behind you all as the Raven spirit departed.
Okay. I was gonna ask if we had pulled Mitch's magic items or could go do that, but perhaps not. If
You all did not take the time, which, to be fair, you were a giant bird, and you all were being chased by a giant bird.
cool, just checking.
Yeah, Lexi did grab the Fae Flame torch, but you didn't have time to grab Marcus's mace or chainmail or belt.
Okay.
So you know that it has now joined the relics of the Raven Palace. Make a... Let's call this a history check.
Everyone or just Cyrus?
Woo. Dirty 20.
All right.
All right. So you all kind of put your heads together and think about it for a second. And you do think that probably there is more of the Raven Palace than what you saw. There's actually a bit of an ominous feel to the thought. Even in Cyrus's vision and in Oryx's visions, you all saw sections of the palace that you did not see on this trip. And in fact, you all had put together earlier that the architecture of the space you were moving through is totally nonsensical. It's like the actual Raven Palace is a massive structure with lots of different floors, and it had sort of buildings contained within it, inside, like in a courtyard, and it was this whole elaborate structure, this whole campus basically, and it was almost like someone had smashed all of it together in a weird truncated way. But you didn't see a throne room or a great hall. You never found the Raven King's quarters. So it's very likely that this is not the last you'll hear of this place.
Ominous is the right word for that.
Speaking of ominous, hey Lexi, make a perception check.
Great. Let me find perception. There we go. 20, dirty 20.
All right. I would hope so, because as Cyrus asks about Marcus's equipment, which is a very Cyrus question to ask after having just been a giant bird, like, did you remember to loot the body?
Yeah. Logic.
You feel something hard clenched in your fist. You feel something clenched in your fist. It's hard. It has sort of faceted surfaces, but they're smooth, but there's like lots of them. And it is almost uncomfortably warm to the touch.
Did you steal Marcus's hero light?
Maybe.
Do you want to open your hand and look?
Yeah.
You are in fact holding the crystal that was on a chain around Marcus's neck. You don't remember grabbing this.
So say no, don't.
You do remember when you all sort of killed Marcus together, that your hero light seemed to
Absorb
rip
his
hero light out of his body.
Okay.
You can tell just by touching it, this is very, very similar to what you found in the Hall of Light. But with that perception check, as you're holding it, you know that your crystal appears just occasionally in strange circumstances like a glimmering white feather. You focus on this and you feel something in it doesn't want to yield to you. There is a secret that it does not want to share. But as you sort of focus your will on it and you look closer, you're expecting another feather. It's not a feather. It is a humanoid eye.
An eye?
An eye.
All right.
It's not... Simultaneously, it's your hand is not wet, but there is a sense of... It's not just an eye, but it is a... It's not bleeding necessarily, but there is blood on it.
This is exactly why I never liked to stick my hand in the Halloween exhibit where they had the peeled grapes. You know, like I was just thinking about that. Yeah.
So you make this disturbing discovery, but you also realize something else. For the first time, you can feel... The hero light has always been sort of close to your body. It's what shields you in battle.
Right.
You feel it almost flickering through the air around you. I need to update your sheet, but your hero light... You're not sure the specifics, but you feel like you could actually activate that reprisal effect, that counter blow, on someone else's behalf, if one of your allies is struck.
Okay.
I will send you the specifics of that once I get it coded into D&D Beyond.
Sounds good.
All right. So you came out with not as much of a currency haul, but with a lot of magic items. So by my count, I should look at my list because I'll forget some. You came out with a lot of sort of minor tokens from raiding the officers' quarters. Get my notes to load. Internet being slow. There we go. Out of the lieutenant's chambers, you acquired a cloak of billowing, a scroll of protection from Fae, a potion of greater healing, a cold iron necklace, and a cold iron / brass ring, which are not themselves magical, but would have interesting properties exposed to a Fae creature. You also recovered the Dread Helm, which Auric has been wearing all this time, a crisp white shirt of mending, and a sort of ornamental chain shirt of smoldering. The last item you found there was a little more important, and it's a moon-touched rapier.
Moon-touched rapier?
Yes, this is the item you found that looked like maybe a war trophy. You all identified it as something like a... almost like a Fae military honor. A fairly highly regarded one. And as far as the more powerful items, you don't know the names for all of these, but you did come away with some kind of blood-drinking longsword, the Fae Flame torch, which Lexi, you probably have that in hand based on how you all ran out of there.
Yep.
You have a sort of suit of mysterious rune-carved dark iron plates, which you all have not gotten to investigate. You have the Shifra's dagger, which is something you found early on. And Cyrus is still holding the Ravening Bracers and the Conspirator's Coat. And I think that's our full list.
I think so.
Okay.
All
I
right.
also had in my notes smoldering chainmail.
Yes.
Okay, and then just a bag of really old gold coins.
Yes. The equivalent of 20 gold worth of ancient gold coins.
Okay.
You might get more than that for them if you found the right place to offer them.
Okay. The right collector.
Yes. And I think also, Auric, didn't you take a rubbing of the prestidigitation charm off of the toilets?
Yes, I did.
That's right. So you can show it to Bela.
All right. So you escaped with both your lives and a fairly substantial hoard. You do discover you've been gone longer than you expected. It takes a little bit. And your first... I think this says a lot about you all as people. Lexi, you get like a couple of text messages and like a voicemail from Caleb. And it's very low key. It's just like, hey boss, didn't see you. If you need anything, let me know. And then like a little bit later, you get something very similar. And then a few days later, it's like, well, you know, we're holding down the fort. We're doing okay. Hope all's good.
I hope Pokey didn't get towed. That was my first thought.
An interesting complication, because you did do street parking a couple blocks away from where you entered the Raven Palace.
Mm-hmm.
Cyrus, you get a bunch of news alerts. Not a lot of... You get a couple of messages from your parents, but your parents are also used to you just, like, dropping off the grid. It's just an occupational hazard. You do get several news alerts. There's been not necessarily any one specific thing going on, but just before you all went down here, there was a big news story that basically the immigration limits for Fae into the city were being greatly expanded. And so there's been a lot of follow-up stories, some like humanoid interest pieces of, this is Thistleby, she's a sprite, and she's new to Queensboro. A day in the life of a Fae immigrant. There's also definitely been some True Light shenanigans, some various groups that are kind of in the same family protesting, pitching a fit. Auric, you get like 1 million notifications.
All from Vela.
Well, I'll say about 60% of them are from like silly things you shouldn't have signed up for, like your daily cat pictures.
Yeah.
Dude, I missed how many days of cat pictures?
There are a lot of messages from Vela. She has at least heard from you, so she knows you're not dead, so that's good.
A lot of messages from Vela that I completely missed when I asked her, hey, how do I turn Cyrus back?
Yep. You had to get a little bit further away. Like we said, you only had like a quarter bar down there. It was just enough to ping out a little bit of data. You also have... You have several... I say several. You have like almost a dozen missed calls from the number you ignored right before you came down here. There is a voicemail.
I have to.
Is that your mama? Are you ignoring your mama?
I hope it's my mama.
Oh, this would be worse than your mama.
I guess I'll listen to the voicemail.
Your landlord's pissed at you. You haven't paid rent.
Unbeknownst to Auric, Steve actually still has an arrangement with the landlord to like cover anything that went crazy. It was actually part of how Auric was able to get the place in the first place, since some of his records are still a little sketchy. You have a phone call. This is Moontree, an administrator of the Parliament of the Fae's embassy in Queensboro. The Deputy Ambassador, Lady Brynn, has been attempting to reach you for several days now. She would like you to return her call at the earliest convenience, or preferably to stop by the Parliament Embassy and meet with her in person. Also, we have temporarily held a number of parking tickets on a dated sedan we believe belongs to one of your associates. That being said, we would appreciate if you would get it moved shortly. You can reach us at this number, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
So we have to go to them to pay the parking ticket? Is that what I understand?
The Fae are holding Pokey hostage.
God damn it, Auric.
Well, to be clear, they're actually holding off the tickets for you.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
you actually don't have anything to pay yet, and Pokey's still out there.
Okay.
But Auric, yes, is well versed enough in sort of Fae manners to understand the unspoken.
You
they,
owe us.
Well, and they could stop holding those if things were not resolved. there's not as much explicit threat here. You
Right.
can tell just from the tone that this is a summer fae.
Oh, good.
And the Seelie are not quite so knife-edged. But you heard it. It was there.
And the fact that it was there for a summer fae means it was really there. So I think I need to go to the embassy.
I was gonna say, what time is it? Should we go take naps first? Or
What time is it?
It is fully like the middle of the night. You all
Middle
been
of the
gone
night?
like cleanly like 6 full days.
Okay.
Before we go up there, Sauna, a lot has happened since whatever happened to the palace. And you need to be prepared for this. The bottle was just the very beginning.
Would she understand the phrase tip of the iceberg?
That's why I didn't say it, 'cause I don't know.
She says, I have seen the opalescent spires of the Fey palaces. I have seen the deep, dark depths of fairy. I have seen human castles rising hundreds of feet into the air. I have seen unspeakable magic and horrible monsters. I do not think I will be surprised by anything I find up there.
Okay. There is one thing I want to prepare you for anyway. Because I believe when last you were outside of the palace was at the Sundering, right?
Based on the 1400 years number she's thrown out a few times, she was still there after the Sundering, but not incredibly long.
When last you encountered the Fae, it was war. The Fae realms have reconvened with the human realm, and we are trying diplomacy now. I wanted you to be prepared for that.
So don't stab first and ask questions later, please.
And in fact, I suppose I should go ahead and change back into a dragon now.
Dexterity saving throw.
Yup. How's a 16?
Let's see. We're just going to call this an opposed. She got a 15. You see 4 black talons go like within a quarter inch of the end of your gold and silver snout. Alex is immediately like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I thought we were done with this. She fights against him for a second, and then fine.
Like I said, a lot has changed.
I mean, he is the only person you can talk to right now. He's the only translator we got, so be nice.
I try to translate that without making it sound like I'm saying it.
I think. Let me check her spell list. Interesting. Do they not have any translation? Yeah, there it is. Tongues. She will be able to deal with that further down the road. Just
Yes.
not right this moment. It's interesting that they don't get comprehend languages.
Depending on how much downtime we have, I might see if there's a language school at the Blackthorn Academy for her.
Or a babble fish or something that we can like stick in her ear.
So, question. We'll pose this to all of you all, but kind of Cyrus specifically. What are you all going to do with Sauna?
I mean, there's space for her at Lou's. She can come stay at Lou's. We're just gonna have to kind of. Ark's gonna have to come for a little bit to kind of get her help me get her settled.
And then we're finding somebody who is like a postdoc in ancient languages.
That's where we need Zyra.
Zyra.
This is what the bard is for. All right, so you're gonna try and get her set up at Lou's.
Yep. It's all right. We can like draw pictures and things and learn how to point. It's cool.
I mean,
Yeah.
mechanically, all she needs is a long rest.
Yeah.
And then she can cast tongues at least a few times a day.
There you go.
That will rapidly speed up her language comprehension.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. So, what is your immediate next step? It's the middle of the night. What do y'all want to do?
Sleep. Apparently, I've been awake for 6 days.
This is true.
Yep.
Is this the first time Oric's been awake for 6 days?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Knowing
Just-
Auric, I'm willing to bet probably not.
This is definitely not the first time Cyrus has been awake this long.
There was that one time in the wild court. You don't want that nectar.
I'm also just imagining Auric, like, probably early on, Steve buys him, like, a cheap smartphone right around the same time that he discovers coffee.
Yep.
I was gonna say Red Bull.
It's just like 6 weeks of coffee, energy drinks, and browsing the internet and watching videos and
Cat videos.
yeah.
That's how I have so many Cat of the Day subscriptions.
This is how it happened. This is how it started.
So Cyrus will use the magnifying glass and identify Shifra's dagger before going to sleep.
All right. Let me see if I've actually made a card.
So are we going our separate ways, or are we all crashing at Lou's? Because there's enough space to crash at Lou's. Or does it matter?
And it's probably yeah, we'll probably head to lose first because Cyrus
Okay.
wants to try to powwow with Alex before
Right.
crashing. Well,
All right.
Close the door. 20 minutes. Someone's impatient for her treats.
All right. If you refresh, I've just dropped Shifra's dagger into your inventory. I can read it out loud as soon as my dog stops huffing. Okay. This twisted, almost liquid-looking dagger is a token of a Shifra, or shape-shifting changeling, and it shares something of their acquisitive and malleable nature. It is also sometimes called an oaf blade. You gain a +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls made with this magic weapon, and it also counts as an arcane focus or holy symbol for you, if you're attuned to it. The dagger has 3 charges and regains 1d3 expended charges daily at dusk. When you hit a humanoid with this weapon, you can expend one of the charges to immediately recreate the effects of the Disguise Self spell. This version of the spell allows you to seem up to 3 feet shorter or taller when taking on the target's appearance. When you take on a creature's appearance in this way, that creature must make a DC 15 Wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, that creature has disadvantage on Wisdom saving throws and all ability checks as long as you share its appearance in this way. If the target fails their saving throw, you also gain access to some of their surface thoughts and memories. As long as the Disguise Self effect persists, you have advantage on deception checks to imitate that person, and you gain access to their recent surface memories. It might also have additional properties that the Identify spell does not immediately identify.
Which is not ominous sounding in the least.
I mean, I will say this. You're specifically looking for it, and in this case, you don't immediately... It doesn't seem like the additional effects are negative, as far as you can tell. This is a contrast to some of the other items, which seem like they might still have extreme negative effects. All right, so you all reconvene at Lou's for a quick post-combat powwow.
Yes.
It's pretty late. Lou's is probably still... and it's probably like midnight-ish. So Lou's is probably in the winding down phase of the evening, but is not fully closed. You get a little bit of the hey from the regulars as you all come in. Of course, Lexi almost immediately has her basket of fries in her hand.
Yes. Anybody need fries? Anybody hungry?
Lexi, make an Arcana check.
$17.
Not bad.
Yeah, I don't have any pluses, so that was a solid roll.
You are very acutely attuned to the sort of non-quantifiable aspects of Lou's and the strange magic attached to it. There is a strange vibe, and at first it's hard to place, and then you realize it's centered on the crystal that you brought back from Marcus. It doesn't seem like an urgent thing, but there's something unusual there.
Okay. So, like, basically, Luz is trying to tell me something about the crystal that I got off of Marcus.
There is definitely something strange there.
Okay. So we have a lot of background noise right now because of the fan, so I'm trying really hard to hear you, but
I will point out then, that means your microphone's working really well because it's not coming through.
Yay!
Which is what I was hoping it would do.
Yeah.
Maybe Luz is trying to assimilate the new hero light.
Maybe. I don't know.
Luz is a Borg ship.
Yeah.
So there's definitely something strange to it. But you all get the traditional welcome. Caleb and Craig are working. There's not really much else unusual going on. Caleb does let you know that you missed Archie and Allinson, who I think we've established comes here occasionally, the archivist that you've not encountered as a person yet. Lexi has, but we haven't.
Right. Yes.
They were here earlier and were looking for you and hadn't seen you in a while. But they called it a night and packed it in. Well, all right. So you all kind of have your pick of the tables. Do you want to sort of sit all together? Cyrus, do you want to sort of spin off and talk to Alex?
Yeah, I think Cyrus is probably going to grab Alex and
Yeah. I was gonna say
pull
you,
off
you
unless
guys
we've
do
got
that while the two of us make sure that
Make sure Sauna doesn't freak out.
Sauna doesn't freak out that she gets fed, because Lord only knows how long it's been since that poor child's had a meal. So, I'm going into bar manager mode and
Mhm. Bar mom.
bar mom.
Yeah, there is actually there's sort of a jump cut of Sana giving that big speech to Auric, and then Sana, like, it's almost like a montage of like Sana like poking Pokey, not really understanding what's happening. Like her eyes going like so big, like looking up at all the lights in the buildings and the other cars, and she's definitely in sort of a shell shock state.
You guys have to buckle her in.
Yeah,
She gotta wear a seatbelt.
you have to make another dexterity saving throw. Not literally, but you had to make one when you tried to buckle her in. And after like you start to do it, and then Alex is like, just,
Pokey's old enough that the nanny only works in the front seat, not in the back. It is not a five seat nanny. It's maybe only a 1 seat.
all right. So, what sort of food would you order for Sauna?
Oh gosh. I'd probably
Fish and chips.
Yeah, I was gonna say probably something like fish and chips. I don't know, maybe instead of having the fries, like maybe I'd ask for the fries to be a bit more like home fries, like chunks rather than strings, just because that would probably be a bit more.
Or maybe a nice stew.
Or a stew, yeah.
And a bread bowl.
I don't think Luz is fancy enough for bread bowls.
Okay.
Although knowing Luz, it could probably produce a bread bowl at random if it felt like it. Like that's just kind of what it does. That's the chaotic good that Luz kind of has. So
I'm now going to method act Sana eating some fries.
it really makes me want Boba McCabe's garlic fries. Man, those were the days.
Man, I really like Chick-fil-A fries, but they go ice cold in like 45 seconds.
They really do.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, you guessed pretty well. Honestly, fish and chips hasn't changed that dramatically over time. Beer and fish and chips, it's like, okay, I get this.
Yeah.
And she actually she just like wolfs down like it's probably like 5 full orders.
I mean, it's been 6 days for us. I can only imagine how hungry she is.
Also, she's been a giant bird for 1400 years, so like
Her metabolism.
yeah, it's there's some stuff happening there. So with that as sort of a cartoony backdrop, Cyrus, you're able to pull Alex over to a table, and y'all sit down and they say, "Oh my gosh, that got out of hand real quick, didn't it?" Like even by our standards, that was yikes.
Being the giant bird was a little much. I mean, don't get me wrong, powerful, but not much strategy to it.
Yeah, that was wild. Do you think that's going to happen again?
Guess it depends on what we decide to do with all this stuff.
Have you tried to remove the items yet?
Nope.
Alex is eating chicken nuggets.
So I'm guessing your undercover is fully burnt at this point.
I mean, yes and no. On the one hand, most of the people who saw anything weird are dead.
Point.
I mean, I guess I don't know if any of them got out of there earlier. I'll tell you what's freaking me out a little bit. What was that sending spell? I don't like that.
Oh. Whoever he sent a message to.
It's not good when someone has one thing left to do with their entire life right before they die, and they take a minute to send someone a message.
Well, we knew they weren't smart enough to get down here all on their lonesome. So, whoever pointed him in the right direction, I'm sure that's who got the message.
I wonder if they liked Marcus enough to get revenge.
With our luck, probably.
So, Alex kind of leans in close and is like, "Do I have a sister?"
Hard to say.
I'm not real clear on how the family tree thing works here. Do we have a sister?
I don't think she's exactly like us. So, probably
Half sister?
we can add that to the list of questions for Uncle as soon as we find him.
Hey Mort, where do little Tuatha come from? That conversation can't go wrong.
Right.
I'm sure it won't be haunting for the rest of our lives. Well, when two giant raven monsters love each other very much. For just a second, Alex's face is Mort's face as they say that.
Yeah.
And it's like so uncomfortable. And in the background, yes, Sauna is doing like whole whole piece of fried fish, shot. Whole piece of fried fish, shot. It is not. It doesn't seem to be slowing her down at all.
So, next step, find whoever got that spell, or find Uncle.
Finding Mort sure seems like a priority. We're gonna have to find some leads though. It seems like all we have right now is giant cat glowy handprint.
Yeah.
What?
And their office of lawyers, we think.
Great. Fairies, cats, and lawyers. That's not a horrifying combination.
Yeah.
Out of all this, the thing that's creeping me out the most, what leaves a big magical handprint shaped scar on something like the big cat?
I'm not remembering exactly what the handprint is.
When Lexi had a nightmare, the sort of culmination of a series of nightmares about an unseen creature sort of circling Luz.
Mm-hmm.
And as it got closer, it became clear that it was some kind of giant feline. And for just a second, as it sort of stuck its giant eye up to the window, she could see that it had a glowing golden green handprint, like smacked across its face.
Okay. Could be from a fight.
Who's big enough to smack a cat like that? And I don't just mean literally, but who is in the metaphysical weight class to leave a lasting magical scar on one of the, we'll call them top 10 on the Unseelie hit list?
I mean, we've seen the Blackthorns throw some weight around, and they weren't even really trying hard.
Honestly, the Blackthorns today and the Blackthorns from the Blackthorn singular from the legend are pretty different. I'm not saying that if they had plenty of time to prepare and lots of support and maybe were able to pull some fancy magical doodads out of somewhere, that they couldn't leave a mark like that. But the big cat is infamous for not letting people have those kind of fair fights. The big cat is the one who makes the plans and catches people by surprise. I wonder if they caught a bigger fish than they meant to. Okay, so are you guys going to follow up with this law office?
Best we can. Don't have much to go on yet, but just the name. But hopefully somebody's got something for me. Trying to remember, because I think
You definitely put some of your contacts researching them.
yeah, I think I put both my contacts on it before we went in. So
Alex seems to think about it and says, I've got some other ideas. And I think Sauna might be a good resource. Once we figure out how to talk to her consistently, I might borrow her and see if the two of us together can't come up with some more leads on where Mort is.
fair.
They go back to chomping chicken nuggets.
Y'all see if you can find him. Maybe get a message. We can see if we can't try to make it clearer for him to get back in, or at least send a message back.
The thing that's really worrying me is that there's a lot of ways to try and contact Mort. And I tried all of them that I know. Everything from the sort of the personal cell phone that he never actually uses, up through all of his, spook, clandestine, burner numbers, all the way to the never use this emergency lines, and got nothing. You all and you were my break glass in case of emergency. I'm worried that Mort can't get back to us. And I don't know what that means.
Wow. We'll cross that bridge if we get to it.
And there will probably be a troll under it.
I'll feed him to the bird.
All right. Well, I'm beat, metaphorically and literally.
Yep.
They went. I'm going to go hole up in one of the safe houses I've been staying at and get some rest, try and figure out if any of my Kingsguard contacts aren't totally burned. I guess just keep me in the loop if y'all figure anything out.
Will do.
All right. And Alex steps out, and you can kind of see out the window. Alex hits a patch of sort of dimmer light where the street lights don't fully meet, and just vanishes. All right. What else do y'all want to do?
Meanwhile, a crowd has formed around Sauna, and they're taking bets on how much more she can eat before she pukes.
I'm not letting her get that bad. I'm trying to take care of this poor person.
But the regulars might not know that.
She's showing no signs of stopping. Like, I mean, it's almost like feeding it into like a trash compactor. Like, it doesn't seem to be getting any more full than it was.
Mm-hmm.
You see whoops. Jeez, we haven't been in Luz in like 2.5 months. My notes have gotten too long. You see Craig stick his head up to like the window in the door to the kitchen and give you like a look, and then hold up like an empty like kitchen supply box of like frozen fish fillets and like shake it, and it's clearly empty, and he's like,
what do I do now? We're slowing down.
How about we get you set up in a room, Sauna? You're probably tired after having been awake for 1,400 years.
she grabs a napkin and just like dripping amount of grease off of her face.
Oh God.
And says, yes, that would be good.
So there's some kind of rooms at Luz, right?
Yes.
Okay. I've only been here to drink, so
Yeah.
and eat.
I mean, Luz has been a tavern of some form all its life. So the upstairs is, made to be like a hotel. That's
So
just
pull
part
some
of it.
stuff out of a junk room and put
Yeah.
her in the bed in there, I guess.
Yep. There's a couple beds for emergencies, typically for just patrons that need to sleep it off, but
Very kind of you.
emergency beds. Safer to have them stay than drive. So we get Sauna upstairs and introduce her to plumbing. Although, there were the toilets.
The magic toilets.
The magic
yes.
toilets. But Luz, I guess one could say that Luz functions a lot more like Harry Potter does, in how the toilets are rather more mundane than Fae in nature. And J.K. Rowling explained that.
So you get her set up, easily falls asleep, and is just out.
It's like lays down and is out, like it shuts down.
Yep. All right.
2 gold says she'll be asleep for the next 3 days.
She could be.
All right. What do you want to do?
I think it's time for me to go sleep as well.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's time for all of us to
I
sleep.
nearly died like 3 times since
Yeah,
the
you
last time I
did.
slept.
All right. Are you going to fully go home or stay here?
I think I will head back to my apartment. And hopefully there won't be any messages waiting for me.
I'll text you if I need your translation assistance.
Yes.
Cyrus is going to see if he can take off the coat and stash it at Luz.
Okay.
So, for a moment, it's not clear how to take the cloak off. You saw what Sauna threw to you was a cloak that very closely matches what the Corvid mantle looks like in its sort of natural state. And then you think about it and you remember her like reaching up and seeming to pull a cloak out of her cloak. And you kind of replicate that motion, and this finer cloak with the luxurious black feathers pulls itself free without losing what you were already wearing.
Okay.
It's a little disorienting. But it does come free.
Because is there room in the Lou's vault? I remember Lou like made us a vault. I don't remember how much space is in it though.
I think specifically it's like a floor safe, was what you said.
Yeah, it's like a safe, but it could probably fit.
Go ahead, Cyrus, make one Arcana check, and then Lexi and Cyrus make a different Arcana check.
Oh,
Got a 13 and then a 22.
I got a 3. Too tired to feel the magic.
It's hard to say exactly what the deal is with these items. Your impression of the cloak and the bracers, the more you think about it, the more you don't think that they're cursed. There's something else happening with them that's different than the other items. Like there's a tangible, tactile difference in the magic of these items, specifically to you, Cyrus.
Okay.
That being said, you think you're probably okay putting it in the safe, but there are definitely questions of how many powerful cursed magical items you can safely store in the same container before weird stuff starts happening.
All right. Well, then I think Cyrus will put the cloak back on, but wants to leave the dark iron plates and the blood moon blade at loose.
All right.
So, and then he'll head home, see if there's messages.
All right. It's like Oprah. There's messages for everybody. You get a message, and you get a message, and you get a message.
Yep.
Lexi, Caleb fishes a pile of mail out from under the bar.
Oh, fun.
And says, I grabbed these earlier. I wasn't sure where to put them because the office was locked. And you see that there is... It's nothing major, but just sort of like a continuing piece of paperwork on this rezoning thing that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
You do see an ad. Fickle Spirits is about to put out their first new line since all the craziness happened. Cyrus, you have notifications. You have a notification from Jace that you have. He's thrown together some general information on Cawthorn, Allen, Tar, and Smith. It's less of a deep dive and more just... Maybe that's not the right phrase. There's nothing like secret but there's just an sort of aggregation and analysis of all of the publicly available information, even the information that's buried a little bit more deeply. You also have a dead rat on your fire escape. When you open your window, it flips over and says, "I got some information for you. I'll check in soon." And then it flops back over. Auric.
Oh no.
You know what's there.
I do.
There is not just one, but there are 5 of the fine, sort of colorful envelopes with the fancy ribbon ties. And as soon as you shut your door, they sort of up into the air, and the bows sort of delicately unravel, and the top folds open, and this perfect little sheet of delicate calligraphy handwriting comes out, and you hear 5 Lambton voices speaking in unison,
Oh, good God.
all reading you the same message.
Well, that's good at least. At least it's not like 5 different messages.
My dearest Auric, I am My dearest Auric, I am deeply grieved at your disregard for my previous missive. Your mother was quite disappointed as well. But I believe I have found the appropriate tact. Despite your contrarian stance, you seem quite invested in the well-being of these humans. An old rival of mine, Lord Taurus, seems to have clandestinely inserted one of his most powerful agents into the human city through nefarious and secretive means. I believe that she is somehow involved in a scheme to traffic humans back into Fairy. If you resolve this situation, I believe it would result in a mutually beneficial advancement of our respective causes. Argent and Stultus send their regards. Stultus is especially eager to reminisce in person if I need further missives delivered. Your beloved Lord, Lambton.
So pretentious. He was always too slimy for his own good. But damn, he's good at what he does. I reflexively try to claw them to pieces and it doesn't work.
Just snaps back into shape. Make an insight check with advantage.
Thank you for advantage. 18.
Whew. Saw that 8 go across. You know Lambton. You know how to read between the lines here. Lambton is pissed. He kept sending letters and you did not answer or respond. He is not so subtly threatening your mother. Also, at the end, he's saying that Stultus is going to come fight you and drag you back if you don't resolve this for him.
Yup. So much for getting a good night's sleep. I mean, I'm still going to sleep, but I'm going to be annoyed while I sleep.
So you don't know how your current power level would stack up against Stultus. You seem to have become a great deal more competent between sort of all the combat you've been doing and essentially having a daily spellcasting practice partner. But Stultus, like, Stultus has the role that he has because he's actually pretty tough. Yes, he's also a bootlicking lackey, but he's a strong bootlicking lackey.
Mm-hmm. Well, presumably, since all 5 letters were the same, he hasn't reached the boiling point yet, so it can wait till the morning. Unfortunately, this has now moved up my priority list.
An ominous note to go to sleep on. Make a history check with advantage.
Can I beat that 21? No, I cannot.
I'm trying not to unmute my mic too soon and give you a bunch of chewing. Of course you've heard of Lord Taurus. Lord Taurus is another of the 7 Fey Dragon Lords. Taurus is actually the other Unseelie Dragon Lord. One of 3. Nope, sorry. That's not even remotely correct. One of 5. No, some of those can't be lords. I gotta go back and check my math. But one of several. Lord Taurus's title, and very few people, like, even by the standards of the Fae, people don't like to say Lord Taurus's name. Mm-hmm. Lord Taurus's title that most people call him is the Slumbering Catastrophe.
Yeah. So if he's trafficking humans, it can't be for anything nice. Not that I'm particularly a fan of Lord Lambchop, but
The good thing about Lord Taurus is that while he is a catastrophe, he is the slumbering catastrophe. Taurus notoriously hibernates almost all the time. He very rarely awakens, and only for important things. You do know that he and Lambton have a bad relationship. You also know, like, they have approximately equal status, but Lambton's status is exaggerated in a literal and sort of metaphorical sense by his ability to influence people. Whereas Lord Taurus doesn't bother with any of that. And so Lord Taurus's influence is actually lower than his pure strength. So if it came to a fight, Taurus is like quite a bit stronger than Lambton. In your favor also is that Taurus is like, he's actually like a weird outlier on the list of absolutely not allowed to visit the human realm under any circumstances. Sort of baked into It's like the nuclear arms provision, the arms control provision of this Fey human pact. It basically names like the top, X and Y number of members of each court, the real powerhouses. And then in the Unseelie hierarchy, Taurus is way below that. But in terms of pure strength, checking in not far under, say, one of the most powerful nobles. Probably one of the ladies.
Man, why can't I be on his team?
You do also know that his team, there's not a whole lot of them because he doesn't feel like messing with it. His team also mostly Dragonborns. Some things that are almost like if Dragonborns are humanoid dragons, some of his followers are turtles that are like humanoid, like lion turtles. The giant steam breathing island sized turtles. A lot of his followers are some of his followers are humanoid versions of that. They are a rough bunch. Not necessarily like, they're almost closer to being wild Fey than Unseelie, just in terms of their demeanor. But very violent. Not even like maliciously always, just like literally communicate through body language. And by body language, I mean punching each other through trees.
It's just how you say hello.
They are the Unsteely meatheads, or at least some of them.
Oh. Well, at least I've got Lexi. She can speak their language.
I mean the beat 'em up, smash 'em up language?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Say hello by punching someone through a tree.
Yeah, no, I've done that. So
You do discover there's one more thing in the envelopes. In each one is a printed picture, clearly like a photograph taken through a human camera at a little bit of a distance, but it shows there's some kind of ring of seeming at work. And so your first impression is almost like a preppy college girl kind of vibe. It's getting on towards spring, so it's getting a little warmer, so the picture might be a little bit older. But it's like the classic like Ugg boots and vest, and but you can tell that that's the ring of seeming. Beneath that, you can see she looks like if she was in a human storybook, she would be called an elven princess. Long, blonde, curling hair, sort of perfectly symmetrical features, very pale, piercing eyes, wearing like you would see this a lot with sort of the more elvish Fae, this sort of long, but sort of loosely draped silk dress kind of ensemble happening. And if it wasn't for the Ring of Seeming, she would really stick out in the middle of the street. you gather that this is the agent that Lambton was referring to.
And just on a glance from the photo, does she look the least bit familiar?
Uh, I'm going to call this a history check with disadvantage.
With disadvantage. All right. So is it going to be a 10? Yes, it's going to be a 10.
You never really directly interacted much with Lord Taurus or any of his crew. Honestly, you were such a wild card that, you know, as we've discussed, Lambton didn't like to actually have you do anything important because you were very prone to like getting distracted or taking a nap or just like wandering off like, oh, look, a pretty butterfly. If he sent you off to intimidate someone, that happened exactly once, and he found you like drinking tea and having a good conversation with them. And that was pretty much the end of that. So like, you were nowhere close to the person who would be sent to interact with the powerful agents of his closest rival. All right. Everybody got their messages. Cyrus, are you going to sort of go over the information from Jace, or do you want to sort of save it and share it with the group?
Yeah, I think he'd probably save it and go over it with the group. Maybe if he needs to drop Gimbal the equivalent of a can talk now text.
So out of respect for my own vocal cords, that's all of Gimbal's voice that we're going to get tonight.
That's fair.
So we'll say sort of the next morning, you're able to sort of catch up with Gimbal before you head over. Gimbal is actually very interested in some of those ancient coins that you brought back, and will write off this favor for 5 of them.
Yeah, sure.
All right. He smiles happily, and the coins just like disappear. So I'm going to sort of weave together this information, and we'll sort of imagine that this is one of those sort of multi-panel shots. So it's like Cyrus looking through the information from Jace and all the records and things, talking to Gimbal, and then repeating it to you all at the table. So from Jace, one of the very first things that pops up is that Cawthorn, Allen, Tar, and Smith, they've only become really active in the last year and a half or so, 2 years. But this firm is over 20 years old. You also notice they are overly diversified. Like, usually a law office will zero in on a handful of specialties and that's all they deal with. Cawthorn Allen, Taryn Smith doesn't even have a huge cadre of partners, but they seem to handle everything from like estates, trust, wills. They've gotten into real estate and development law, zoning law. They even do some like criminal defense. They've done civil suits. Just this bewildering combination. Jace flagged that as odd. They seem to have some office fronts, fairly nice ones, but there doesn't seem to be one central office, at least from what is visible in the records. It seems like all of these sort of partners and subspecialties are working out of different branch offices, but he could not track down where the central spot is. What else? Go ahead, we'll say that he's as good as you. Make an investigation check with advantage on behalf of Jace.
Okay. $26.
Jace really did some deep diving. The partners are pretty mysterious. And in sort of the analysis that he wrote you, he seemed to be frustrated. You've gotten a lot of dossiers from Jace on various people, and Jace always finds it. Always. Like, if the information is there, he finds it. Some of the partners don't even have names listed. Like, as far as he can tell, there is no Cawthorn, Allen, Tar, or Smith. They just seem to be arbitrary names. The real partners, they seem to send various memos and things, and he's managed to get a hold of a few. But for the most part, they're just signed with letters. Oops. There's some things from a C. There are some things from BE. There are some things from BD. And the one name that he could actually find is the real estate and zoning lawyer who's been interacting with Luz. And that's a Buchanan. But then he gets frustrated again because Buchanan doesn't seem to exist. There are like superficial records, just enough to pass sort of a cursory inspection. So like he was able to like call and like their alma mater said like, yes, they went here. But he went a step further and he called some people from the class they were supposed to have graduated in, and no one knows who he's talking about. He's looked at like property records, and there is a house that's supposed to be, there's an address that's listed as theirs, but the neighbors say no one ever goes in and out. they're not quite a ghost, but they are surprisingly unverifiable. Gimbal gives you a slightly different angle, which fills in some of those gaps for you. On the official record, there is one known servant of the Kate C in Queensboro. And it is a feline fae by the name of Buchan. Word on the street is that there is very likely at least one more at work in the city, just because it's the Kate C. Of course there is. But the wildest rumors say that there are a lot of them. Some of the rumors say that there might be 3, 4, 5 of the Kate C's lieutenants and a shocking number of lesser fae. Gimbal sort of conjectures that the Kate C might have a way of, like, just on the top of his head, Gimbal knows for sure that there are some unofficial gates around town. But the numbers that are coming back to him, he suspects that somehow the Kate C might have found a way to bring a lot of feline fae, like lesser feline fae, into the city totally off the books.
Okay.
Didn't you talk to a cat?
Didn't I talk to a cat? That's a good point.
At the brewery, you cast Speak with Animals,
Yes.
and the cat yelled, "Alas, I have been found out," and ran away immediately.
That's right. Yes. So it didn't quite work the way we'd hoped.
Yeah.
But I think we also said the cat didn't yell it in cat. The cat yelled it audibly in common and ran away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Since we said that Cyrus was transferring this along to all of us.
Mhm.
All right, so we've encountered accidentally at least one of these little spies.
Mhm.
At one point, you all also suspected that you had encountered a lot more than just one.
Well, there'd like been cats like in the dumpsters and outside of loos and at
Following us.
homes and things. Yeah. Yeah. We also made some pretty bad rolls, so didn't really get to find out what they were. Are you trying to tell me what they were, Maisie? Here.
All right. all these messages in hand, you all reconvene at Lou's. So Cyrus shares his information. Auric, do you share your letter?
I do, and specifically I share the photo. Although I guess the letter disintegrates once it comes into Luz, doesn't it?
Oh, shit. You're right.
This is true. The photo doesn't.
Good. I do share the contents of the letter.
Well, you have 5 of them. Maybe take a picture of one of them once.
Maybe that's what happened. Maybe you're like holding 4 in one hand and 1 in the other. And as you walk through the door, the 4 you're holding disintegrate. And you like jump backwards holding the one that survived and take a picture of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knew that's what they meant when they said take a picture, it'll last longer?
I'm also visibly disoriented because I have my ring of seeming on, but I remembered that it doesn't work.
That's true.
Okay.
So I assume you probably actually came out in... Did you switch to your alter self?
I walked out of the apartment in dragon shape, realized what was going on, and switched. So I'm at Luz as a human.
Okay, well, that's good at least.
So we've got a lot more information about the cats.
Mm-hmm.
And then this new thread with the slumbering catastrophe.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned to all y'all about the voicemail I had.
Right.
I would think I would have. Oh boy.
Mhm.
Well, I feel like my 2 threads at least are taking me to the embassy, because that seems like a good place to start in terms of figuring out what's going on with the slumbering catastrophe.
Yeah. Yeah, from like a business standpoint, Lexi definitely wants to get the cat's issue solved because she doesn't want to lose, but she's also curious about the hero light.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
Cyrus, what do you think we should do with all this cat information?
I don't know if the embassy is powerful. Do we have any sense if the embassy is powerful enough to... Like, it doesn't feel like we can't just like fight the cats, I don't think.
Right.
Well, and even just as a starting point, fight who, where,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of power, this is part of why Auric has been trying to stay off their radar. The embassy is very powerful. Not quite as much in terms of like raw blow up a brewery wall power. In that respect, you don't actually know where they sort of shake up. More importantly, the Fae Embassy is responsible for enforcing the treaty with humanity. They're a 50% partner in controlling the gates, in monitoring the flow of Fae into the city, monitoring the flow of culture and technology back into Fairy. In a lot of ways, the embassy is speaking for the most powerful Fae. So it's not as much about whether they can, explode you, and more about the fact that, like, they can call home and things will get wild pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
You all have established in the past, you all would definitely have heard of Lady Brynn. the lady is a sort of like lower upper tier of Sealy nobility. Under normal circumstances, she would be a powerhouse in her own right. But Auric, you're kind of up on this. Most of the most powerful Fae haven't died in a long time. Fae sort of quasi reincarnate, and the more powerful they are, the more distinctly they come back. But Lady Brynn died just like 200 years ago. She's functionally only the human equivalent of like an adolescent or like an older teenager. Even though she's really like 50 something by human reckoning. There's a little scandal to that. But she does have a good reputation.
So we can at least possibly get a fair hearing with her. And it's not like I've flown under their radar as much as I thought I did, so no harm in revealing myself to them if they already know I'm here.
Right.
They do seem to have your cell phone number.
Yep.
Yeah. I say we go talk. Make sure we're not in trouble, and then see if we can barter for help.
Yeah.
We've got the sword. Might be good for a little something.
Yeah.
We got the story about Blake.
Yep.
If we want to go big guns, we got a book.
We got the book.
Which you all still have never investigated.
It's true, if not.
I don't want to touch that thing again. It tried to eat me.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well, when we return, we will head over to the embassy and see what developments unfold from there. And y'all have some plot threads hanging over you.
I will call ahead so they are expecting us.
That's a good idea.
All right. You get the very efficient Sealy woman again, whose name I will find on my list. You all would not believe we have like 150 NPCs.
Wow.
Nope. Come on. There we go. Yes. So you talk to Moontree, who's the woman who called you, in her brisk, tiny little voice. She arranges a meeting between you all and the Lady Brynn in an hour. Apparently, you all are a fairly high priority.
Okay.
So Cyrus is going to make sure he's bringing the Moon Touch Rapier.
Mm-hmm.
And if the magnifying glass recharged, I'm not sure if it would have or not. But if it did, he wants to identify the armor before they leave loose.
I think it is at dawn. Let's take a look. It's in a book, but they won't open it. Double check what all it reveals. All right. Go ahead and roll an Arcana check with advantage.
Oh, I was going to do the full identify. Do I still roll for
Go
it?
ahead. Go ahead and roll.
Okay. $22.
Nice. All right.
The 19s have liked me tonight.
Yeah.
It's a good number to like you.
Yeah.
So you take out the magnifying glass, and you examine this strange item.
Bless you.
So as we said, this is like it's almost like the armored plates of a suit of armor, but not attached to a suit of armor. They're just sort of like strung together by this leather harness. And you examine it very closely. It's these plates of heavy, dark iron. Auric, what do you do during this?
I imagine I'm standing back but watching curiously because all the things down there tried to eat me.
So, are you doing this at Lose?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Because I left it there. So
yeah. So, are you still in human form?
Yes.
Okay, even up in the office.
I think I wouldn't think to change back.
All right. As soon as it sort of comes out of the safe and is sort of laid on a table, you feel a little dizzy. Like not, like I'm gonna immediately fall over, vertigo kind of vibes, but just like I don't know, like the edge of like a low blood sugar crash starting. You just feel a little weak and a little woozy. You rolled very well, so I have to do something. Whoops. How do I do this? Okay, D&D Beyond is being a jerk.
Yay.
Oh, this is my own fault. I didn't have it plugged in. Okay.
Oops.
I'll give you the final version here in a second. So when you first examine it, you get the following. This simple leather harness has been woven through with heavy plates of dark iron that have been carved with angular runes in some ancient language. There seems to be a magical fluidity to its construction. Worn without armor, the harness will shift and form into a light and flexible tunic. If worn in addition to a suit of armor, the plates and leather will integrate with the user's armor, reinforcing it. While wearing these plates, your constitution score increases by 2 to a maximum of 20, and whenever a spell or magical effect causes you to regain hit points, you also gain a number of temporary hit points equal to half the number of hit points you recover, up to a maximum of 15 temporary hit points. While you have temporary hit points in this way, you also have resistance to psychic damage. But with that excellent check, you also discover the following. Curse. Once you don and attune to this magic armor, you can't doff it unless you die or are targeted by the remove curse spell. The plates subtly shift and fuse to the wearer's skin. While attuned to this armor, the user cannot willingly be the subject of a spell from a Fey source. The user must succeed on a DC 10 Charisma saving throw, or the spell fizzles and fails to take effect.
Interesting. Cannot willingly be the subject?
Cannot willingly be the subject of a spell from a Fey source.
So unwillingly, you could still be the subject.
Yes.
Got it. Doesn't stop a fireball, just a healing spell.
Right. Also, it fuses to your skin.
Yeah, ow.
You will have visible metal plates sticking out of you forever.
No,
Also, just eyeballing it, Auric, you're pretty sure this would kill you.
oh yeah.
Just
I
like-
could tell.
Right.
I could just tell from the fact that it made me lean against the wall.
Yeah. Cyrus, it might not be great for you either. Like, it probably wouldn't kill you, but it's also probably would not be good for you.
Yeah.
Examining these runes with that Arcana check, you pick up a couple of things. So, even the language of magic is a language. And like language, it's fluid, and it changes over time. The dialect, the syntax, spelling, pronoun consistency, and all of those sorts of things. All those things wander a bit. This is to modern magic as the ancient common that Auric has been speaking is to modern common. Also, Auric, you sort of eyeballing this, and you'd both notice this. This looks like Blackthorn magic. This looks like powerful Blackthorn magic.
Vela, your ancestors trying to kill me again.
Also, you see some resonance here. It would be particularly bad if someone like Marcus had gotten his hands on this. And actually, you suspect that this might have been designed for someone like Marcus. Do you want
Cool.
to check out that tome while you're in there?
Can I do the magnifying glass on it? Just the not the identify, but just the Arcana investigation
Sure, go for
side. Which one?
it. We'll call it Arcana. Just
Okay.
a normal Arcana roll.
Oh.
I roll to assist.
That's an 8. 11 if I get the boost.
I was right into the door of the bathroom.
What? Okay, go downstairs.
It almost is like it wants you. It's almost like it wants you to know what it does. There's almost like a whispering to it. If you opened this book and attuned to it, you would instantly gain a level of Warlock.
Okay.
Just immediate power boost. Like, in 1 hour, you could go up a level.
Okay.
Huh.
It did try to eat me, though.
That's true. Did try to eat him.
It wasn't great for Blake either.
Yeah.
Just what I'm trying to remember. Having been in a place that was like, hates Fae, fine with humans. Trying to remember, this book did bad things to both a Fae and a human.
Mhm. Also, I'm trying not to get player knowledge involved here. How much does Auric know about how warlocks work?
You'd be very familiar. And honestly, like, you wouldn't necessarily have any negative associations with, like, warlocks.
Okay.
Like, it's actually weird that you're a sorcerer, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, sorcerers are not super common. Like, they're not unheard of. But sorcerers tend to show up higher up the Fae hierarchy. And a lot of Fae are essentially archfey warlocks in service to their literal and magical patron.
Okay. So the fact that it's warlock doesn't give me any negative associations, but I do now suspect that the encounter I had inside the book was with whomever was trying to get me to take their patronage.
Cyrus, it's not so much an audible voice, but you suddenly know that if you were to keep using this book, you would become resistant to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from attacks that are neither magical nor iron.
So I need to use this carefully.
Who is the patron inside the book? That's the question. Someone who's desperate for minions.
Poor child.
I mean, if you were to bring the book to an expert with that specific question, they might be able to figure out who the patron is it's pointing to.
All right.
Okay, so find yourselves an expert.
There's probably a Blackthorn, who knows?
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
You would actually know that. You would at least know that they have a large collection on the topic. Because in your various research delves into the library, more than once you came across like details of Fey pacts and almost very clinical descriptions, like who the pact is, who the patron is, who the warlock is, a sort of semi-objective estimation of their power level, what powers they gained, what the requirements of the pact were, remarks on any ways the pact deviated from sort of the archetype they've identified. There's essentially like a player's handbook entry on Archfey warlocks in a book in the Blackthorn library.
Makes sense.
It might even have a chart like 1 to 20. Here's what Archfey warlocks have.
Well, maybe that can be a thread we pull on after we have our appointment at the embassy, since that one is scheduled.
Yeah.
All right. To close, Auric, your sleep was relatively untroubled. Your problems are in the waking world in the form of a pile of beautiful satiny letters and beautiful calligraphy. Lexi, you have a familiar dream, one that's become far too common. You're in Luz, and it starts to grow dark inside. And you can see out the window into the darkness beyond, and there's something moving. And you've had this dream enough times now where, like, the giant cat eye jump scare doesn't freak you out anymore. But it doesn't come. In fact, whatever's moving out there, it doesn't seem as large. And it's certainly not moving like a feline. But there's definitely still something moving out there. And every so often you catch an orange-red glimmer. And this creature isn't circling. It seems to be a humanoid shape. You almost see like a street light in the distance, and it passes under, but the street light doesn't really illuminate it. It just sort of highlights the shadow. And it's a tall, incredibly tall humanoid shape. And it's walking forward slowly and methodically, agonizingly slowly. And when it steps into the shadow between the streetlights, you can see this glowing orange-red dripping from different places along its silhouette. And a small but distinct orange-red glow from one eye. Almost like a smoldering coal.
Okay.
Cyrus, you dream that you are a giant, monstrous raven, perched in the rafters of an impossibly high-ceilinged throne room. Everything around you is darkness and stillness. But very, very, very far away, you feel your raven stirring. And you catch tiny glimpses through their eyes. And you see a city. A gleaming city of steel and glass and concrete and electric lights. You see a man laying in a bed, a dark, long leather jacket thrown over a chair nearby. And as he lays there asleep in the bed, his eyes are wide open and they are fully black and glassy. And you look down on yourself as the raven. And you wake up. And that's where we'll come back next week.
Not creepy in the slightest.
Right.
Just an out-of-body experience. It's cool.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and cut off our Twitch stream.
Okay.
Looks like we have a new bot.
Hi, bot.
Hi, new bot. Goodbye, new bot.
The bots have started talking. They just say weird generic things. But anywho, yeah, we'll come back here next week. I'm gonna sign us off of
week we're
Twitch.
at the beach.
Bye, bots.
Yeah.
Yeah, next week we will be at the beach for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. All right, so probably 2 weeks from now.
Yep.
Let's see. I think I'll have family in town. Probably shouldn't talk holiday plans over here. So yeah, we'll be back in 2 weeks, and I'll get us off our stream.